Hello, friends, and welcome back to another episode of the Urban Tumbleweed Podcast. My name is Emily Adams. I am your host today, and we have a very special episode with a very special guest. Our guest has been a pioneering force in the sustainability movement, from turning discarded materials into high quality, eco friendly products and championing environmental stewardship through his foundation's impactful initiatives. We are joined by Thomas Kimber, the founder of Karun Eyewear and the director of the Join the Planet Foundation. Some of you may recognize the foundation because maybe you're a fan of Messi, who is very intimately involved in this foundation, and we'll get to hear a lot more about that as the episode continues. But for now, join us as we dive into Thomas's journey, the incredible work that he and his team have accomplished, and discover how each of us can contribute to a more sustainable future. And there we go, we're recording. But thank you again so much for taking the time to chat with me and giving everybody that's listening to this the opportunity to learn a bit more about you, about Join the Planet, about Karun, all of the amazing stuff that you're working on. And to start off, I wanted to give a quick couple of minutes just for you to introduce yourself, kind of give us an idea of who you are, what you're working on, why you're working on the things that you do, just a little overview.
Okay, great. Well, first of all, thank you, Emily. I'm really happy to be here talking to you, and it's nice to see how we are. I can already feel it on the same page, on the same like vibe. You being in Seattle, in Washington, and me being here in Patagonia, in Chile. It's I think we both share that connection to nature, and I can feel that already.
Absolutely.
And yes, I'm based here in Patagonia, in Chile, in a place called Puerto Varas. I've been an entrepreneur since I'm 17 years old. I went in to study business, and then I dropped out after a year, and I'm been fully dedicated to being an entrepreneur. Um, I think an important part of my story is my parents, my mother. She's a photographer specialized in nature, and so since I've been very young, I've been going and see wild pumas and wild horses in very, very pristine and wild places here in Patagonia. And I think that made a connection, deep connection to the natural ecosystems. And since then, I decided to dedicate my life into proving through example and by working and by collaborating that we can change the way we interact with our planet, and that we can build companies and we can build projects that are not only looking for economic profit, but I would say much more importantly, are restoring natural ecosystems and local economies and regenerating natural ecosystems and innovating at the highest level. I've been doing that since I'm 18. I'm passionate about outdoors and sports, and working with other people that want to make a big difference in the world.
I love it. And to kind of go off of what you just mentioned about the outdoors and sports, do you have a specific outdoor sport that is your favorite?
Yes, they've changed along the different years. I used to love rock climbing
Yeah.
and skiing. I still love them, but I haven't done them in a while. Now my new obsession is trail running.
Ah, you would fit
It's
right in Seattle, Washington. Everyone does all three of those, to be
I
honest.
know, I know. I love all that area. All the Pacific West Coast is
Mhm.
one of my favorite places in the world. I need to spend more time there. But now, yes,
Really?
I'm obsessed. But I'm obsessed with trail running, but with a twist. Barefoot.
Oh, so like being truly connected to the run in every sense of the word.
Exactly. So I'm running barefoot every day here in the city, in the streets, but also in sandals out in the mountains. I love it.
That's impressive. I've heard that that's also very good for your arch support. I personally
Yeah.
have not done that, but I've heard good things about it. So that's incredible. And to truly it really exemplifies like your commitment to both the outdoors and the sport to barefoot trail run. I feel like that's a beautiful like example of truly how you're living it, not just talking about it. And you had said that you had started your entrepreneurial journey in sustainability since you were 17. What was the origin? What was the first thing that you started to create?
The, the first thing was to spend time in nature, um, and really get out there. I think that gave me this consciousness of how we are all connected, and how doesn't matter where you come from, who you are, where you live in. When you go out to the natural places, your stress levels go down, you feel happier, you feel different. And I would say that is what sparked in my mind the contrast between that feeling and how I was feeling when I was in the city, when I was in the concrete jungle. That contrast was what really inspired me and said, wow, I need to use all the energy and the time I have in this world to actually create something that can make a difference. Um, and I started by making the first online website, the first website in Chile dedicated to sustainability, back in 2000, and that was what, 2009? No, before 2007 or 8.
Yeah.
It was way before it was all very cool and trendy in terms of the sustainability movement. Um, and I started with that. I had many projects. I was having representing a brand from the US actually that is made as a flip-flop brand made with compostable material. I also had Karun, and it's at many projects. I started an NGO to reforest Patagonia after a big fire, which became today is the biggest NGO in Chile for reforestation.
That's
And
incredible.
Karun, that was a beautiful project. Like we started with a group of friends after a big fire. There was 17,000 hectares that were burnt. And we created this online portal where you could click on the different trees that were burnt. You could pay $4 on every tree you wanted to plant. And then the tree became green. And at the
Oh,
time, Facebook was new. So in your Facebook feed, it appeared that you planted a tree on X and YZ place with the Google Maps link to the tree. So it became viral.
oh my God, that's incredible. I feel like that really kind of plays very well into the consumer mindset of being able to show like, oh, I've done this good thing. So that's how did you
Exactly.
come up with that idea? Because I feel like that's not utilized nearly as much as it arguably should be.
Well, maybe we can do it in the US. That would be
Yeah,
cool.
that's
Um,
awesome.
yes, well, it was a difficult journey. We had no money. I didn't have one single cent. And I got together with a friend, Matias Rivera, and he had this fund and was working with a fund that had trees for carbon offsets. Um, and I had just a passion to do something about the fire. And we came together and we created, together with another group of friends, this platform. We launched it with no money. And in less than a year, we raised more than $1 million in donations from 50,000 people from many countries around the world donated money. We were on the cover of The Economist in the US, actually, in the digital version that time back in 2011, 12. So yeah, it was a journey.
I'll have to find that and I'll add a link to that, like The Economist in the bio so people can check that out because that's
Great. Yeah,
incredible.
I'm gonna look here. It was a beautiful, and that I learned a lot with that. Um, and then after that, I a lot of things happened. But basically, in summary, after that, I started to dedicate myself fully with the project that I've been leading for the last 12 years, which is Karun, until today, which is a B Corp. It's one of the first B Corps outside of the US. Um, and we're based here in Patagonia, and we've created a whole model that we call the Karun regeneration model, that basically what it does is to change the perspective on the supply chain of high value added products so that you can work with local rural communities, you can help restore natural ecosystems and eventually regenerate those ecosystems while adding value to the discarded materials there, creating turning those into an opportunity for the people that collect, that work there, and then giving full transparency to the final consumer through blockchain technology. And we've applied all this into our first product, which is Eyewear, for the last 10 years. And now recently, which we can talk about today, about with Join the Planet and Leo Messi.
Yeah. I was wondering like what inspired the eyewear as the final product? Was there a specific need that you found when you were skiing or rock climbing or trail running where you're like, we need better eyewear glasses, or there was a lot of waste associated with eyewear? Like, what was the eyewear connection?
I like the question. Look, I'm looking at you, and the first thing I see is your frames.
This is true.
It's it's a very iconic element. You wear it in your face. It's the first thing that it expresses your personality, who you are, and many of your values. Everything we buy expresses our values and everything we want to express. But this is in your face, so it's very literal. And the more important one is you look at the world through them. So it's an invitation to change the perspective of the world. And in our case, we believe that the main problem we have is that we are looking at the world from the perspective that humans are separate from nature. But we understand that we are nature, then we're going to change our reasoning and the culture and the economy, etc. So it's an invitation to look at the world from the perspective that we're part of nature. So in summary, it's a communication tool that can go into the fashion industry that reaches billions of people. So it's an excuse so that we can say, hey, we can create the highest quality products better than the same ones you find everywhere in the market, but under a completely different logic. That's why Eyewear.
That is a really beautiful connection. I hadn't thought of it as being like truly a kind of the portal of your connection to the outside world. So I love that as a mission statement. And going off of what you had said prior about Karun kind of leading into the Join the Planet Foundation and working with Messi, what was the story behind the creation of Join the Planet? What inspired you to start the initiative?
Perfect. So Join the Planet is has two sides, okay? So it has the art part, pieces are made, and then it has the foundation. This was created by a group of friends that are very close to Leo Messi. And they came together and they said, hey, Leo is an icon today, is one of the most famous people in the world, if not the most famous person in the world. And there's a lot of issues in the world, but one of the key one is how do we take care of our planet? So they propose a project to him, to Leo, saying, hey, why don't you lead? You can become the captain of the team, basically, of this initiative that can work with you and then other of your friends to create works of art, unique pieces that represent something relevant to you personally, like your left shoe, that can be made with using materials that are helping clean the world, that can be fully transparent with blockchain technology, that is what we're using, that can be sold out to the world. And with part of those sales, we can then fund initiatives around the world through the Join the Planet Foundation that are working through conservation and regeneration of these ecosystems. That's more or less how it started. We got into the picture as, or I got into the picture both as Karun, as being the official supplier of these cleat, this work of art, and making, designing, producing, taking the material, having the traceability, doing all the work behind the product itself. And on the other side, by co-creating the NGO, the Join the Planet Foundation, and its impact strategy and how we're going to be working into helping donate into these projects around the world.
That's incredible. And especially like what you said, Messi it would be hard to find somebody that doesn't know him or hasn't heard of him ever. So to have someone that is so impactful be the face of something that is going to hopefully be so impactful is, I'm sure it makes your job easier, especially for when it comes to the reaching out and like really getting the mission of Join the Planet out into the world. How do you aim to achieve the mission of Join the Planet? Is it mostly through just getting people to understand that, oh, Messi's part of it, kind of like a hook, and then bringing them in to become passionate about the mission? Or what is your insight into making this as impactful as it can be?
Great. So, and if you think about, I would say, in my opinion, or the way I see it, the key thing here is, if you look at I saw that some months ago, I was reading an article, I think it was in The Guardian or one of these big media,
Mhm.
and it was showing the top 10 most followed people in social media. Messi, Cristiano Ronaldo, The Rock, the Kardashians, Taylor Swift, and I don't know what. And it's the average follower base was above 350 million followers each.
Yeah.
Messi alone has more than 500 million followers. It's crazy. And then you see the subjects that these top 10 people talk about, and they're all practically beauty, sports, I don't know, fashion, basically
Yeah.
those three. Is what people are interested in. But are not subjects that are relevant necessarily, or maybe not as relevant to society as many of the other subjects that are on the second list, which are the 10 most followed accounts that talk about key subjects, like, for example, the climate emergency, the climate
Mhm.
crisis. And then if you had on the average, on the first row, on the first column, you have 350 million followers each, more or less, or more. And the other one, you had 1 million followers, which is very sad. And it's a brutal reality that at the end of the day, the conclusion that I see there is the subjects that are most relevant for humanity today are still being spoken in small elite circles. They haven't gone to the masses, and it's not a part of our daily conversations on our day-to-day lives. So if what you need to do is cross those two and have the key subjects spoken by the people that actually reach the masses. Because then everyone, every little kid, every conversation on the dinner table and everything, it will be part of the discussion. But you
Mhm.
need to do it in a way that is authentic and it's not just greenwashing. And
Absolutely.
And I think that I would say illustrates the biggest potential of Join the Planet initiative and having Leo Messi as the captain of this team in a way so that he can invite and inspires others to join.
Beautifully said. I do agree that a lot of times, sometimes it feels like if someone or a celebrity randomly will be like, you guys should do this, and it's in relation to like the climate crisis or anything within that space, it can oftentimes feel performative if it's not backed by action. And
Yeah.
so I'm very excited to see, like, as this continues to grow, how it continues to be more of an integral part of who Messi is and how the foundation continues to grow as a foundation. And speaking of growth within the foundation, how have you been able to, or are you planning to measure the impact of your projects both on a local and global scale?
So it has different sides. On one side, you have the making of this object, this piece of art, that has its different metrics related to, for example, amount of materials collected for the recycling. And it's always materials collected together with communities that have also full traceability. And we put that traceability on blockchain so it is not modifiable and actually transparent. That in itself is a whole journey. And the more objects we can sell to the world, the more material you're collecting and recycling and communities you're supporting. That's one. Um, the second one, and I think there's some of very key ones there, like amount of people you reach with a message, and you can define more than impact. You can define a lot of reach within that part. But then we have the Join the Planet and Foundation. And the Join the Planet Foundation has a very clear vision and a clear mission that is to work and to work alongside communities so that we can regenerate natural ecosystems collaboratively through local communities and innovation. And there's a lot of work that we're doing there in different strategies. But basically, like in the most summarized way, we're looking for projects that are, or NGOs that are already doing the work, ideally local NGOs that are normally the ones that are getting that have a lot of trouble in getting the funding, that don't have access to that funding, so we can help support them so that they can keep doing what they do under a very clear theory of change, so that we can measure the impact in time as we grow.
I love it. I especially love your first point of, the more that people actually end up buying these pieces of art, the better it's going to be for the planet, because you're removing these different toxins and litter, if you will, from the environment, which is almost antithetical to what standard capitalism is. So I love that you're using capitalism as a way to benefit the planet as opposed to extract resources from it. I think that's a really unique perspective and way to operate. And I'm very hopeful that in the near future, people will take that as sort of a guiding principle when it comes to incorporating sustainable practices into their new businesses or new foundations. So I love everything about that. And with that, and like engaging with local NGOs and even abroad and even beyond that, are there any, besides Messi, collaborations or partnerships that you are currently working with or have plans to work with Join the Planet?
Yes, unfortunately, I cannot tell you a specific
That's
name
okay.
yet. It is part of the plan. Leo Messi is the first one that is coming, and he's the captain of this team, as I said before.
Mm-hmm.
So he's gonna be like the leader that inspires and like kicks the first ball. But then there's many others that are gonna be joining. So far, there are many conversations going. It's been a little bit slower than that I expected at the beginning.
Mm-hmm.
It's not easy to work with these kind of people. It's obviously extremely busy and famous. So all of that the new wave of people will come soon. I can't say yet when, but I do
Nice.
know that it's going to be very relevant people. I'm not sure if you saw on the launch in March
Mm-hmm.
that we released the project. Chris Martin from Coldplay, for example, sent a
Yes.
video to Leo thanking him, and those kind of things have been going on a lot. So now we'll see in the coming weeks, coming months, who actually joins the team and starts pushing this further.
I have to keep all of my notifications on to keep track of this, because I'm excited. And I'm sure that other people who are listening are also equally excited to understand and see what this growth looks like, what hopefully their favorite celebrity or whoever is able to collaborate with you all, because it's always nice to see somebody that you look up to also engage in practices that are meaningful to you. So yeah, I know I'll be personally following, and of course, all the links for the site, the projects will be in the bio. So anyone that needs to or would like to follow can also do that. But to
Love
kind of
that.
go back to what you said about it being very difficult to work with a lot of different people and organizations, as the director of this, what have been some of the biggest challenges that you've faced during this project, this foundation?
Oh, we can do a special podcast only with that. It's been extremely difficult. Because yes, when I'm here talking about this beautiful project, it sounds like everything is perfect, but in reality, behind the scene is so difficult.
A lot of work.
I would say there's many difficulties involved. One of them is very, I would say, not necessarily because of the project per se, but because of the type of people that we're dealing with. It's coordinating agendas and timings and deadlines and all those kind of things. Uh, it's been extremely challenging. Like something we had planned for X date,
Mhm.
and you have everything perfectly organized for that. And the reality is not even close to being that, and you need to adapt and change, and that changes all the supply chain and the factories and everything at the same time. It's difficult.
Yeah.
That comes naturally with dealing with or with working together with very relevant people, and with busy schedules and agendas and so many events going on at the same time. But I think that's a given. But something that particularly for this project is extremely challenging is all the supply chain behind the object, because
Hmm.
it's not only about saying, hey, this is recycled, but you need to make sure that the material is coming from communities. You need to know the people, you need to build those relationships, you need to organize the logistics, many times from different countries. You need to build all of that, and at the same time put that in a way that people can understand it, in a blockchain platform that you can actually show to the world, and have all of that while at the same time making sure that it's looking good, that it's high quality, that Messi can stand behind it,
Mhm.
has a lot of details, and all of that process is, well, what we as Karun has been working on for more than 12 years or 11 years in learning how to do, and taking it into the scale of a project like this. It's not an easy challenge.
It doesn't sound like it. Yeah, it's no easy feat to do what you do. And like even with the kind of like almost radical transparency that you all are engaging on when it comes to the supply chain, obviously having the uh, blockchain technology is very useful when it comes to communicating what you all are working on. So when you're thinking about, oh, my cat joined. When you're thinking about the role of technology and innovation in advancing sustainability efforts, what do you hope to see in the near future to make it even easier or more accessible for people to be more sustainable or to check in on sustainable efforts?
It's a good question. And the answer is not that straightforward, I would say, because you can, from the technology perspective, I think there's a lot of things that can be done,
Hmm.
but it's never going to be enough if people are not interested and actually not going in and seeing it. And for example, we from Karun, and now also enjoying the planet, we've developed so many incredible tools that we feel excited, and you can go and see exactly the name of the person, photos of his or her family, the neighborhood in the rural community up there into the mountains where they live, the story of that place, short videos that tell, like documentary style, that tell the story behind the place that you're helping to support. You have no idea how much energy we put in there. But then at the end of the day, the final consumer that is, I don't know, going to the supermarket and buying some things and talking to their friends and doing whatever, they
Hmm.
spend 1 second in saying, ah, interesting, and then they just leave it because they're too
Right.
bombarded with so much information. So I think the challenge is, how do we shift the culture so that consumers are actually interested and prioritizing the subject more than what they're doing today, maybe at the
Hmm.
same level of the financial side. So
Yeah.
if I'm making a decision and I know that this mate is $10 and another one next to it is $8, not only choose it because it's $8, but also because of the quality, as you always do, but
Hmm.
include the responsibility side as well. And that's not something that depends entirely on companies. I think it's
Hmm.
something that is very collaborative, and it has a lot to do with culture. Therefore, the timings are slower. And I don't see that there yet, by no
Oh.
means.
And I think that will unfortunately probably be an uphill battle for many, many years to come for people everywhere, anyone that is passionate or an advocate when it comes to sustainability as a whole. And kind of like continuing off of that, as a leader in this space and like dealing with these issues and trying to change their perspective, is there any advice that you would give to individuals, to advocates, or even businesses that are looking to become more sustainable, more environmentally conscious?
We've had so much difficulty in the last 12. I've been an entrepreneur for the last 16 years, and we've made so many mistakes. So yes, I think I can more than mistakes per se. Yes, obviously many are mistakes. Many of them are just part of the road that is not yet taken in a way, or not yet discovered. But I would say some key things might be, first of all, make sure whenever you start any project, and not necessarily the sustainable one, make sure you make sure what's your name? How do you
This
spell
is
it?
Maisie.
Amazing.
Yeah, me to say hi.
She wants to be part of the conversation.
I know, she's a sustainable cat as well. Her collar is made of recycled materials. It's perfect.
I love that. Um, Sorry. So I would say, first of all, make sure you surround yourself with people you love and that love you back and that are having good energy. That's the most important thing, because you're going to have very tough moments. And the only thing that matters is your relationships then and your health. The rest is all just a game. Second, I would say make sure you are cautious with your financials, because
Mhm.
normally we all entrepreneurs project an incredible future, and we believe that in the future things will be whatever, and you don't focus on the short-term financials. And that's so important, especially in a project that is giving back to the communities and nature, because normally your costs at the beginning are higher, or you
Yeah.
have costs that companies that are only focusing on a product and you don't normally they don't have. So that's even more important when you speak to investors and everyone else, that you're considering that within the equation and it makes sense from a business model perspective.
Mhm.
And finally, I would say don't be afraid to always look for authenticity. Like it's so easy to get deviated because of financial pressures or whatever other external pressure. Make sure you always remember your purpose, why you started, and try not to deviate from that, even if it's hard at the short term, because it's going to pay back in the long term.
Absolutely. Everything that I feel like everything with regarding sustainability is very much so investment minded, where short term, oftentimes you don't really see the effort or the finances that you put into it, but then it pays itself back in tenfold years on, and then you'll be happy about it. But in a very instant gratification society, it is hard to get people sold on the concept of waiting. Um, so I absolutely agree.
I love what you said. It's so true. And here we can go way deeper into the conversation, but I'll try to summarize. The society we have today, that you really well said it, it's very immediate and everyone wants immediate return, immediate Instagram, whatever, immediate everything. Um, I think that mindset is dangerous, and especially when you're speaking about different business models that are sustainable, eventually even regenerative, is
Mhm.
that it's not only about the timing, it's not only about the project itself or the impact. The key thing, and I think that most people miss to understand, is the way you build the relationships and the expectations you have from the beginning. And one of my main frustrations with my investors, with so many people around, is that if we want to make a change in the world, it needs to start by relating to each other with empathy, not
Yes.
from a transactional perspective. And businesses so far are very transactional, and the transaction alone will kill the world. What you need is empathy. You need to build trust relationships that go
Mhm.
beyond the transaction. And that's so difficult because it's so ingrained in our brains. And that shift requires a lot of patience and strength.
Absolutely. Could not have said that better myself. And that's also very that also relates to not only businesses and individuals, but I feel like it also definitely relates into like government structures and policymakers. So when you think about not only your role as an individual or your role as an entrepreneur, a business leader, how important do you think it is for governments and policymakers to support sustainability initiatives? And further from that, what kind of policies would you like to see implemented at maybe a local level or even a global scale?
Good. It's fundamental. I think we cannot get anywhere if it's only startups doing it. You need the big
Right.
corporations, and you especially need the public sector, because then you need to have the clear rules and punishment if you don't do it. That must be there, and incentives, like from, I don't know, the carbon taxes. That's fundamental if you actually want to move finance into the right direction. If we don't have the big financial powers going into investing as heavily or even more as in the fossil fuels, it's never going to move the needle. And it's always going to be like a David versus Goliath kind of story, but you need to shift that narrative into the opposite, into saying, hey, like the big guys, the government, the big funding and the big powers are going into a different direction. So I say that's one. Obviously, there needs to be, and I think here, apart from public policies and how those rules are put into taxes and investment, and also the rules, like those rules of the game, creating national parks, protecting wilderness that's so relevant today, and rewilding areas and supporting the people that are doing that, etc. I think that's so important. Focus on nature-based solutions. But it's also about how they, the public sector, in collaboration with the private sector, can shift the narrative. It's so relevant how we speak, how we see the presidents of the countries speaking to the world. And today, what I see the most is inflation, economic growth, innovation, etc., which are not bad. I'm not saying that, but it's insufficient. There needs to be a discussion, a conversation. It needs to be prioritized to say nature, biodiversity laws, pollution, all those things need to be at the top of the agenda, because if that is there in the discussions and in the conversations, that has a ripple effect into every decision and CEOs of companies, investors, etc. So we cannot make the change without the public sector.
Absolutely. It turns sustainability initiatives from a nice to have, or like, oh, look at company A, they've done this thing, how great, to like, that's the bare minimum. Like, that is the baseline. Everyone does it. And then anything above that is a nice to have, like, oh, company A did this. That's awesome. But to
Exactly.
have the bare minimum be a nice to have is definitely discouraging. So it is, I agree that policymakers need to really get behind it. And not only that, I think for the US specifically too, make sure that those laws are not necessarily able to be tossed around from one administration to another, like what we've had issues with regarding the EPA. During the past couple of presidencies, I think it's really important that it's the norm and it is a non-negotiable across the board for every leader that comes into a role. I
Exactly.
agree.
And I think that needs to be aligned with the punishments if companies or whoever don't follow those rules, and they're contaminating, they need to pay, and they need to pay very, very, very tough. And on the contrary, if you are investing in things that are helping and that are minimizing a negative impact, you should be rewarded. And that will
Yeah.
move, I think, the key thing, which is the incentives, which is the finance sector. I think normally in the climate crisis, people don't talk too much about the finance sector. They go
Hmm.
directly to the extractive industries, which obviously are at the forefront of the problem. But what's behind that is the guys that are funding all of those businesses. That's what needs to be moved into a different direction. And that will not happen by beautiful stories, as you say. It will happen by laws and by rules of the game and by taxes.
Absolutely. And I've talked about this a little bit, and it does relate to corporations, to policymakers, but when it comes to the individual, it can often feel very demoralizing because you're one of 7 billion, I think 8 billion
Mhm.
now, people on the planet. So it doesn't feel like your specific impact is really that impactful. So do you have any sort of advice or words to share with individuals and how they can contribute to the global sustainability movement?
I think there's a beautiful book. I'm not sure if you've read it. It's The More Beautiful World Our Hearts Know Is Possible.
I have not read it. I will
Oh,
add it to my
nice.
list though.
Add it. It's a beautiful book of philosophy by Charles Eisenstein. Um, and he speaks about how every single small action has consequences that are impossible to predict. Like a smile, for example, in a person that actually needed that smile, can change his or her mood, which can change and alter the direction of her life, which at the same time can alter the impact that he or she is making in so many people. It's just because of one smile. It's, in a way, it's like the butterfly effect.
Yeah,
And I really believe in that. Like the way you turn out to your life and the day to day, no matter, no, irrelevant of the size of your impact. If you're a big leader or you're a small community person, you can make such a big difference in everyone around you. So it's a lot of people say it's like the vote. Like if no, you don't go and vote, you're not gonna know that your president is not gonna be elected, and everyone needs to do that. And I agree, but I think it's way more than the vote, because a vote is just one thing that you do one time and that's it. The
Hmm.
attitude to which you confront your life is is every single day, every moment of your life. So it's infinite possibilities of the outcome you can have. And that's not about just recycling or saving water while brushing your teeth. It's about the attitude, is the smile that you're giving me today and the energy that I feel when I'm talking to you, because I'm happy to be here. And then I'm going to leave. I'm going to be very happy because I had this beautiful conversation with Emily from Seattle, which is going to give me energy. And that at the same time is going to make me be in a in a attitude
Hmm.
that is constructive, that is positive, that is coming from love. And that is what we need. We don't need programs. We need a different mindset. And that mindset is mainly based in the attitude we face into the day-to-day of our lives.
That is an incredible perspective on this because, yeah, like you can do so many things every day to say, like, I checked off all the boxes, I'm sustainable, but like, it's not a matter of checking off a list. It's a matter of like making that a part of who you are. And that really does come from what you said, just like changing your perspective. And like that really speaks for itself when you as an individual interact with other individuals. And I know that for as a personal side, my friends are my biggest supporters when it comes to this podcast and like everything that I do in the sustainability world. And something I love is that they'll show me things that they've done or changes that they've made in their day-to-day life because they enjoy the change of perspective that they've had since having discussions or like listening to conversations like what we're having now. And they're like, I've never thought about it this way. And that has like fundamentally changed how I really approach different aspects of my life. So I couldn't agree more. And that I feel like that's also a very motivating viewpoint and perspective. And when it comes to someone in your position who is really engulfed in true to their word when it comes to being sustainable, how do you maintain that motivation, that passion about sustainability and environmental conservation, especially when there are so many roadblocks?
I think, and connected to what we were just talking about, I think it all comes down to working on yourself.
Yeah.
If you're not at peace with yourself, you're always going to be blaming someone else, and you're always going to be seeing the negative side of things. And if you accept who you are, if you accept and you try to be as conscious as possible in every decision you make, since the moment you wake up, instead of looking at your phone, meditate or go out, do some sports, go out for a walk or have a mate or a coffee in silence, just with your thoughts and that uncomfortable feeling you can feel, and accept that. And every moment you're having a conversation, try to look yourself from the outside and realize if you're anxious, if you're stressed. And if you're anxious, why are you anxious? Is it because you're nervous, because you're insecure, because you want to look and or project an image or whatever? Be conscious
Hmm.
of that, because that will allow you to be more free, and have less of a burden in yourself, which means that will help you relate to the world around you on a more light way. Not with that like dread. How do you say? Like sometimes the English.
Like the like ominous sort of, yeah, I got what you're
Exactly,
saying.
like trying to pretend to be something or trying to feel that you're in control when you're not. That at the end of the day makes you suffer more and makes you have a difficult time building relationships of trust. So if you have that, if you work on that, then when it comes to the sustainability or the planet challenge or whatever, you realize, I would say, that it's not up to you. You can do certain as much as you can, and the rest you can need to lose that idea of control, let loose or let go. And then once you do that, we have one life. We can do as much as we can, but we need to enjoy it. We need to do as much. Don't take yourself too seriously, I would say.
Absolutely.
And if you do that, while at the same time doing as much as you can while you're alive, by having fun, not by feeling that you have the whole weight of the world in your shoulders, because you don't, I think then you realize that you can accept whatever reality there is around you, and you
Mhm.
can do as much as you can, and the rest is up to the universe or whoever, not you.
That's really true. It's kind of reminds me of a phrase of like life is short, but it's long enough to make a change. And
Exactly. I like
I
that.
love that. Yeah. See, I feel like there are so many things that, like what you said, I'm going to take this and just kind of continue about my day in a very like excited mindset and a really like I'm just excited to do more now regarding everything related to sustainability, whether that be in my actual job or editing this episode too. And I feel
That's
like sorry.
sorry. No, you were going to say something interesting.
Well, I was gonna say that I feel like these moments really are impactful and memorable for me as someone that is like reaching out and talking to people who are experts in what they do in their own right. And with your perspective and your really array of experiences when it comes to Karun, Join the Planet Foundation, or just your personal life, has there been anything like especially memorable or impactful to you as it relates to sustainability?
I would say many. One of the things that I've lived many times that I think you need to put this to the all everything that we're talking to the test is on the difficult moments. It's not on the happy moments, and I've had so many of those difficult ones. I've been on the brink of bankruptcy more times than I can count. Um, and and I've been in extremely tough situations where I've been asked to be removed as CEO, where all my investors have come together to say the company is going to close and all
Hmm.
those things. And I think in those moments is where you really put yourself to the test in saying, okay, what is it that drives me? Because if I'm there in that situation, is it my ego? If it's my ego, I would be trying to defend myself as much as possible and look good into the situation.
Right.
If it's not really, or your ego is always going to be part of it, but if it's your real purpose, then you're going to step aside and just from a humble perspective accept whatever comes, as long as the purpose is taken care of. And and I've been through that a lot, and that has taught me so much in saying, hey, it's not about you, it's not about me. I am just at the service of this project that goes way beyond me. And if I
Mhm.
need to step out of the game, well, then so be it, as long as this group of people can continue taking this onto the right direction.
Right.
So I think we all need to do an ego check and say, hey, why am I doing the things I'm doing? And if I'm doing them for the wrong reasons, well, dare look at that and change. And as I said before, let yourself let go of that idea of control and make yourself available for whatever comes. And I think if you do that, or that in my perspective is real sustainability, because it means that it doesn't depend on a pragmatic idea of that you had set, or prejudice that you had set for yourself before. You're open to whatever comes, and you're flexible, you can adapt, therefore you're resilient. And we need resiliency in the world, and resiliency is not sticking to one plan or one idea. It's the opposite. It's flexible like a river, like the water that flows over the river.
That is beautiful. Again, everything that you've said has truly like opened up a very different perspective. I agree. It's very easy to get wrapped up in ego, whether you want to or not. So, like, taking that moment to step back. I feel like this kind of ties back to what you said about waking up, not necessarily scrolling on your phone, maybe taking a walk, sitting in silence and that uncomfort is a really good tactic of connecting with yourself, with checking your ego, and allowing you to be a better human across the board, not only in relation to sustainability, but in your relationships to others when it comes to really anything. So, couldn't agree more. And that is really beautiful advice. And I deeply appreciate everything that you've been able to share. And I know that from our conversations, I want to support the Join the Planet Foundation. I want to support Karun. And for all of the listeners who are also on the same boat as me. How can we best support you and what you work on and the sustainability initiatives that you're passionate about?
Thank you very much for everything you said. I would add one thing
Hmm.
that I've realized. Everything is a game. At the end of the
Sure.
day, if you have health and you have good relationships with the people you love, then you have everything. All of the rest, building a company, being an entrepreneur, having your podcast, that's all a game. It's just invented in our minds, and we put value in these things called money and my computer and my cell phone. That has no value. And when you realize that, it's so nice because you feel free, like honestly free, and you cherish what you have. And we always hear the big gurus and the big like old people that tell us, "Hey, live the present moment, enjoy your life." And we understand it logically, but we never interiorize it until you are in a difficult situation. So just a reminder to all of us, especially the young people like us, that are constantly busy and moving around.
Yep.
Relax, not so serious, it's not so important. We have health, and that's what we need. Um,
Absolutely.
and going back to what your question, I would say for Karun, I invite all of you guys in the US to go to Walmart. We're in practically all Walmart stores, in
Really?
Vision Center stores. Yes.
Oh my gosh. Perfect. I'll go there
Uh,
today.
if you go, please let me know if you find it, okay? Because we're in like 2,000
Absolutely.
stores.
Yeah.
In the Vision Center, not next to the yogurts, obviously. It's in the eyewear section.
Yes.
And online in karuneyewear.com. But about the Join the Planet Foundation, go into Join the Planet online, jointheplanetproject.org, and you'll find all the information. You can follow us on social media. Follow Leo Messi. I think that's the easiest one, and to see what's going on. And I don't know, do as much as you can for the world and enjoy the life.
I love it. I feel like that's a beautiful call to action and a message to leave with everybody. So I just wanted to thank you again so, so much. This has been an incredibly enlightening conversation. And like I said earlier, very inspiring. Again, I'm gonna go buy a new pair of glasses, frames,
I love that.
and really do a lot more research as far as like everything that I can do to support, again, your work, and like how I can be a better, less ego-driven individual. So I'm very excited about that. And thank you again. For everyone that is listening, everything that we talked about, links to book that you recommended, the different the Karun, Join the Planet, everything will be linked in the description, as well as any social media links that you have available as well. So everyone can go check you out. But thanks again so much.
Thank you so much, Emily, and congratulations for what you're doing. It's
Thank
really
you.
beautiful. Continue that. The world needs more people like you having these conversations, and
Thank
count
you.
on me for whatever I can support.
Thank you. I really appreciate it. And that's a wrap. Thank you all so much for tuning into this most recent episode of the Urban Tumbleweed podcast. I hope that you found our conversation with Thomas to be as inspiring as I did, because I really do feel like Thomas's innovative work and dedication to sustainability serve as a really excellent reminder to us all of the power of creativity and community in creating a positive impact on our planet. So, with this conversation, just remember that every small step you take towards sustainability counts. It matters. Whether it's supporting eco friendly brands, reducing your own waste, or participating in local environmental initiatives, you have the power to make a difference. And with everything that I talked about and Thomas talked about, there will be many, many links in the description. So please be sure to go check out all that Thomas is doing, support him in the work that he and his team are really working towards. And then, of course, subscribe, rate this podcast, and follow us for many, many more episodes and many, many more conversations. But until the next time, let's keep working together to create a greener, more sustainable future. Bye, all. Stay rad.